Hello, faces and heels. My name is Ganja. You can call me Ja. I go by Lil Baby Ganja on most of my social media platforms. But I'm your host today of the Babyfaced Podcast. What is the Babyfaced Podcast, you ask? I'll let you know right now. So, essentially, with this podcast, I wanted to make an outlet for myself to talk about wrestling because I have basically made it my personality. I always find a way to bring it up in conversation, in just, IRL. And now I'm like, you know what? The world's about to end. Let's just yap on the internet about the things we like, So that's why I'm here today. Basically, this is the intro pilot episode. So I'll be discussing what this podcast will be about, what I want basically in the future with this podcast, and a little bit of my personal life. Not too much, but enough to basically let you know how I got into wrestling, if that makes sense. So yeah, let's get started. So I want to start with the name of the podcast. So Babyfaced Podcast. Where do I start? If you're new here, with pro wrestling entertainment comes a lot of wrestling terms, and faces and heels is a very popular term. I want to start with kayfabe though. So kayfabe is generally a term used to basically maintain a storyline, to blur reality and fake, if that makes sense at all. Excuse me. Google would probably describe that better, but I'll put the definition right here, okay? But yeah, so there's kayfabe, and with kayfabe comes your faces and your heels. And faces were originally called baby faces, so that's where the podcast name comes from. And also, like I said in the beginning, my social media is Lil Baby Ganja, so the baby face, let's just call it what it is, baby faces. Faces are your good guys, so examples would be wrestlers like John Cena, Cody Rhodes, current day Cody Rhodes, who else do we got? Rey Mysterio, people like that. And then your heels are your bad guys, which would be Edge, Chris Jericho, Vince McMahon, just a little bit of examples. So that's where the name comes from, faces and heels, baby face. And with me, this is probably where I'll get into my personal life, but I always gravitated towards the baby faces, obviously. Of course, I like the bad guys too. But the baby faces were where it's at. I guess you could say Jeff Hardy was a baby face. Stone Cold was definitely a baby face. I just gravitated towards those guys. So the Babyface Podcast. Okay. Oh. Now a little bit into my personal life. We're not going to go too deep, but just enough so you can understand my little hyperfixation with pro wrestling, okay? So I grew up with brothers. I'm the only girl. Let's not get into my half siblings. That's a whole different video. But I grew up with two brothers, older brother, younger brother, and also my uncle. My uncle and my older brother are closer in age, and they were really into wrestling when they were younger. They liked The Rock, of course. They loved watching SmackDown, and my mom even took them to shows and stuff. So I didn't really get into it until later, though. I didn't really watch it with my older brother and them, but my younger brother followed suit. A little bit closer to the 2010s, and I know, before you start, I know that was a really horrible era, like the objectification of women, just the storylines, it was just bad. But listen, if you haven't done the math already, I don't think you had the chance to do the math, but I'm a 2000s baby. So I was a child in the 2010s, and it was very entertaining for a child. Okay, so I watched it. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I love John Cena. I loved all them. Okay, so because I liked it so much in the 2010s, watching it with my brothers and stuff, I decided that I wanted to be a pro wrestler. So in middle school, In middle school, I joined the wrestling team, and I ended up doing that all of middle school, and then into high school I did like 2 years of it, and then I fell out and I was just not focused on school anymore. So I wasn't really watching pro wrestling. Like during my years of me actually wrestling, I didn't really watch wrestling because I was so focused on that. And it no longer was an obligation or like a future career of mine to be a pro wrestler, you know? I just did it just because it was fun. It was fun, okay? Fell out of love with wrestling basically around high school. And when I graduated high school, which is so crazy, I got back into pro wrestling, and I didn't watch it from current day, like current 2018. I graduated in 2018, mind you. I didn't watch like 2018 WWE, basically, if that makes sense. But I got back into watching the Attitude Era. So in 2018, I watched the Attitude Era a lot, and I just couldn't stop. I grew to love the Attitude Era, and I don't know, you can argue with your mama about it, don't argue with me, but I truly feel like the Attitude Era paved a way for what wrestling is today. And we can agree to disagree, but it's what I think. Like, we had Austin versus McMahon, the Rock and Sock Connection, Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys. Like, I can't even talk, but Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys. Like, are you so serious right now? We had a lot of staple moments in the Attitude Era. And like I said, I'm a 2000s baby. So I wasn't even born during the Attitude Era. I was watching the Attitude Era in 2018, 2019. That's all I really watched. I didn't really get into the Shield. I know y'all are gonna hate me, but I didn't get into the Shield and like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and all those storylines until way later. Today I watch wrestling like episode by episode, like every week. And what made me get into that routine again was in 2023, 2020, was it 2024? I don't know when it actually started. I want to say 2023, but something that made me get into it again was hashtag we want Cody. I know. And since I was a big wrestling fan in the 2010s, I loved Dashing Cody Rhodes. I loved him. He was fine. And like, if you know me, I loved Justin Bieber growing up. Like, down. Justin Bieber, One Direction. So Dashing Cody Rhodes to me was like a Justin Bieber variant, like a teenage heartthrob variant. I just thought he was so cute. I don't give a fuck if this is my podcast, I can curse, but I don't care if he was a heel, okay? He was fine with his black hair, okay, and his little mirror. With his little mirror. I want to grab a mirror so bad, but the only mirror I have that's handheld is a Jeffree Star mirror. Cody Rhodes and his story essentially made me get back into what I like today, which is wrestling. I am the worst explainer ever. Like I said, hopefully I get better with explaining stuff as I make episodes and get more comfortable with talking in front of the camera and talking into this mic. I've had this mic for years and I haven't used it. Like, be so for real. That's basically my story about getting into wrestling. Now I want to talk about a little bit of what I want out of this podcast. So I see a lot of YouTubers do it. I do watch a lot of wrestling YouTubers. I like Mr. Santi's app, of course, BDE, Wrestling Gifts, Chris Van Vliet. A lot of male names that I'm saying right now, right? I personally have not seen a lot of women or females, even queer people in wrestling media, basically discussing wrestling, talking about wrestling current events. And I just want to change that, make it a little bit more fun. I'm like not the, pioneer of it all, but I don't see it a lot. So I'm like, you know what? Trump's in office. A lot of shit's going wrong. I'm just start my own podcast. Hey, post edit Jaw here. Just wanted to add, if you guys want to recommend me some entertaining female wrestling media commentators, feel free to do that, because I love watching. Love watching the men talk about wrestling and stuff, but where the girls at? Where the girls? So I just wanted to insert that. Yeah, recommend me some girlies. So that's what I want to do, and I want to in the future maybe just make this audio format, but I just thought video would be easier for me right now and get me a little bit more comfortable in front of the camera. And yeah, hopefully we can get this into a bigger thing. I can bring guests on here and talk about wrestling. Maybe even guests that don't even really like wrestling. I have friends that don't even like wrestling but liked wrestling in the past, and I want to bring them on and just talk about, certain moments and stuff like that. But essentially, I just want to talk about wrestling. I just want this to be a fun little thing for me, okay? Not for anybody else. I mean, yes, for everybody else, because I want to build a community and I just want to talk to people about wrestling more. But this is really for myself. I just want to bring like-minded people together and, push that movement, push that hot girls love pro wrestling movement. Vanessa Hudgens kind of, paved the way for the hot girls love wrestling. I'm a hot girl. I love wrestling. And I love talking about wrestling. So that's what the Babyfaced podcast is going to entail, guys. I don't really know how to end this, but the Royal Rumble is coming up as I'm recording this. It is Friday, the 31st of January. Royal Rumble is tomorrow. I'm probably not gonna live stream or anything. Also, let me know if you think that live streaming would be good, or if you would watch me live stream. Basically, let me know if you would watch me live stream, because I have all the equipment to live stream shows and stuff, but I don't know the guidelines, and I don't want to. It's a lot, okay? Other than that, hopefully I'll make maybe a reaction or what I think about the Royal Rumble tomorrow. Maybe I'll make a little podcast episode, my next podcast episode, about the Royal Rumble, or maybe it'll be about Raw, maybe it'll be about SmackDown. I don't know. I'm not on a timely schedule with this. Like I said, I just want to have fun. I just want to talk about what I like, okay? Hopefully I didn't blabber too much. I think I did, but who cares? Thank you so much for watching the Babyfaced Pod, and I hope to see you guys in the next episode. Bye.